The elevator doors opened, and the sound hit me first, the hum of fake laughter, champagne glasses clinking, and that damn string quartet trying to make Vivaldi sound festive. The ballroom looked like something out of a luxury wedding catalog. Seafood towers, white orchids, chocolate sculptures. I stepped out, holding the clutch I'd borrowed from my sister, tugging at the hem of my navy blue outlet dress that already felt 2 inches too short. My name's Rachel. I'm 39, live in the East Bay, and I've been a mid-level marketing analyst at Rowan and Clark for 7 years. That's 7 straight holiday parties where I've shown up, smiled, and faded into the background without anyone really noticing. Tonight wasn't going to be any different. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. The room was packed. Every department had dressed like it was a red carpet event. Full sequins, stiletto heels, spray tans in December. Most of the women looked like lifestyle influencers on a sponsored post run. The men had gone full Wall Street. Slick hair, pocket squares, expensive smiles. Everyone here was selling something, even if it wasn't on paper. I slipped past the valet check-in and made a beeline for the appetizer table. It was always my corner. Far from the action, but close enough to grab a crab puff when someone walked by. I nodded at a couple of coworkers. Dana from HR gave me a quick wave before turning back to her conversation with Lindsay, who was already holding court in front of the execs. Lindsay looked like she'd walked off a magazine cover. Silver jumpsuit, platform heels, that glossy confidence that came from knowing everyone in the room wanted a piece of her client list. She was grinning wide at Mr. Dalton, the founder. 80-something, still sharp, still terrifying. Rumor was he was finally retiring. Every VP in the room had been sniffing around him like dogs in heat for months. "Champagne, ma'am?" a server asked. I took a glass, even though I wasn't planning to drink much. No one needed to see me buzzed, not here. Not with everyone scheming for visibility. You could practically smell the desperation. Carter from Digital Strategy laughed loudly behind me. That fake laugh people use when they're networking. I glanced over. He was clapping someone on the back, name-dropping that viral campaign from Q3 like he wrote it himself. I swallowed a crab puff and turned away. I knew the real numbers behind that campaign. I built them. But tonight wasn't about truth. It was about optics. And I knew better than to think those ever worked in my favor. I'd barely taken 2 steps into the ballroom before I heard Lindsay's voice cutting through the noise like a wine-soaked blade. "Oh, the crypto guys? Total dream clients," she said, flicking her hair over one shoulder. "We closed last week. 6-figure retainer. Minimum. Q1's already paid." A group of execs circled around her like bees to sugar. The CFO actually nodded like she'd just solved world hunger. "That's game-changing stuff," he said. "Dalton's going to love hearing that." Lindsay beamed like she'd already cashed the bonus. She glanced around to make sure everyone had heard, including the junior staff pretending not to listen. I stayed parked near a floral centerpiece, sipping my champagne and watching it all unfold like bad community theater. A minute later, Carter jumped in, louder than necessary. "And don't forget that Q3 campaign. Fresh start. We cracked 8 million impressions in the first week." He slapped the bar like that proved something. "My team killed it." His team. Right. I had written the original proposal for Fresh Start back in May, including the messaging sequence and influencer pairing strategy. I was the one who dug through the analytics to prove that audience segment was ripe. But Carter had presented it alone in the final deck, said I was heads down on other tasks. No one looked my way now. Just more nodding, more cheers, another round of drinks. Then Dana appeared, weaving toward me with her wine glass, smiling too wide. "Rachel, I haven't seen you all night." "Hey," I said, bracing for it. She leaned in. "So where's your daughter tonight? Is she with your ex?" There it was. I didn't flinch. "Yeah, she's at her dad's for Christmas this year. We alternate." Dana blinked like I'd said I left her on the side of the road. "Oh, that's fair, I guess," she muttered, eyes already drifting over my shoulder to someone more important. "Hope that's not too hard for you." "It's manageable," I said, just loud enough for her to hear, but the judgment in her expression lingered. Not pity, just that smug little, glad it's not me look that people get when your life makes them uncomfortable. Then the lights dimmed, and our creative director, Paul, got up near the string quartet and tapped his wine glass. All right, he said, grinning like a game show host. "Time for the awards we all pretended not to care about." Fake laughter rippled through the room. Paul pulled out a stack of envelopes. Let's start with most valuable marketer, the shining stars who brought home the wins this year. He called Lindsay first. Of course. She squealed and strutted up to accept it, hugging Paul like they were old friends. A couple people clapped too hard. The second went to Brian from partnerships. He'd closed 2 big retail chains last quarter, though he barely showed up to team meetings. Third went to Carter. Paul looked around. Hard to pick just 3 folks. So many rock stars this year. I kept my face blank, but my hands tightened around the stem of my glass. They all walked back to their seats, glowing like golden retrievers with brand new chew toys. No mention of the campaign I built, no nod to the logistics models I'd optimized for the holiday rollouts. Just empty smiles and vague claps while I stood there like part of the furniture. Later, by the dessert table, I overheard 2 execs chatting near the espresso bar. Rachel from marketing. She's still here? Rachel who? Exactly. Then the room shifted. The side door opened, and Mr. Langston walked in wearing his usual gray suit, holding a thick white envelope. He wasn't smiling, wasn't mingling either, just made a slow walk toward the front like he had somewhere specific to be. A few department heads noticed right away. Paul stopped mid-bite, and the CFO suddenly stood a little straighter. Lindsay turned around and whispered something to Carter, who tilted his head like he was trying to hear a stock tip. Langston didn't say anything. He just handed the envelope to the event manager and leaned in close. Whatever he said made her eyebrows shoot up. The buzz started moving across the room in waves. You could feel it. That switch from fake party mode to something else. Something serious. And no one knew what was coming next. Langston stood next to the stage for a minute, talking low with the AV guy. The quartet finished their set and started packing up quietly. Nobody was paying attention to the desserts anymore. Not even the Flaming Bananas Foster table could pull focus from whatever was about to drop. Then the lights shifted, and Langston walked up onto the stage with a handheld mic. The room went dead quiet. You could have heard a glass of rosé hit the carpet. I apologize for interrupting the evening, he said, but I've been asked to deliver a message on behalf of Mr. Dalton. That was all it took. Every conversation stopped cold. Half the room instinctively turned toward the VPs. A few phones went face down on the tables. I caught Lindsay whispering to Paul, and Carter looked like he was trying not to visibly sweat. Langston didn't pause. Mr. Dalton has officially stepped down from his position as chairman of Rowan and Clark, effective December 1st. His health has been declining in recent months, and he has decided not to return in any formal capacity. Murmurs rolled across the ballroom. Nobody was surprised he was stepping down. The surprise was this, making it public here, tonight. No PR rollout, no press release, just Langston, a mic, and the thick envelope in his hand. He chose not to announce this earlier, Langston continued, because he did not want boardroom leaks or media speculation affecting the transition process. 6 months ago, following a personal health crisis, Mr. Dalton revised his business holdings plan. He also finalized a private succession document outlining changes to the company's future ownership and operational structure. I felt nothing. Not shock, not dread, nothing. I wasn't part of any succession pipeline. This wasn't about me. I figured it was a show of loyalty, maybe naming Paul or the CFO as successor, maybe splitting ownership between divisions. Either way, I was a ghost in this story. But the rest of the room? Different story. Paul leaned forward with both hands flat on the table, like he was bracing for impact. Lindsay crossed her arms and tilted her chin up like she was already preparing her acceptance speech. Carter took a half step toward the front, like his name might be called if he just stood close enough. Langston held up the envelope. I've been authorized to share the contents of Mr. Dalton's revised business holdings plan publicly tonight. This document has been notarized, reviewed by counsel, and confirmed through appropriate legal channels. The energy shifted. It wasn't a party anymore. It was a will reading. You could see it in the eyes around me. People were doing mental math, calculating stock values, titles, clawbacks, backroom deals. A few lower-level staff looked confused. Most of us weren't supposed to be in the room for this kind of thing. Langston opened the envelope slowly, pulling out several typed pages and a handwritten letter sealed with wax. No one breathed. Before I begin, he said, Mr. Dalton asked that I read this in full, with no edits or summaries. He believed transparency was essential, especially to those in this room who've given years to the company. I glanced across the table at Brian, who suddenly looked pale. Dana had stopped pretending to smile. A waitress tried to slip out from behind the buffet with a tray of petit fours, but nobody moved to take one. This wasn't just news, it was a shift in gravity. Like the walls had bent around us and we were all waiting to see who'd land on top. Langston adjusted his glasses. The document begins as follows. I didn't register the first couple of lines. Something about operational equity and board voting thresholds, legal scaffolding. But then he started listing departments: legal, finance, creative, operations, each followed by names, amounts, percentages, and clauses. Some execs were getting consulting roles. A few department heads were granted discretionary bonuses. Paul got an honorary title. Carter got a fixed stipend to stay on through Q2. It was all tidy and transactional. No big titles, no control, not even for Lindsay. Confused whispers started bubbling up. Paul kept glancing toward Langston like there had to be a mistake. This wasn't how these stories went. The power stayed with the usual players. Everyone knew that. But then Langston flipped to the last page. And finally, he said, the controlling shares, including all domestic brand rights, real estate holdings, and a 51% voting interest in Rowan and Clark, currently valued at approximately $80 million, are being transferred to? He looked up. Rachel Geller. My stomach dropped. Someone gasped behind me. Dana actually dropped her wine glass. I didn't move. Couldn't move. My name? That wasn't. Langston kept reading. Mr. Dalton has asked that I include the following statement in his words. Rachel never asked me for a damn thing. She visited me in recovery without an agenda. She didn't want power. She didn't posture. She listened. And over time, I listened back. Her loyalty, clarity, and quiet execution reflect the kind of leadership I believe this company needs going forward. Silence. Complete, deafening silence. And then every head in the room turned to look at me. I could feel every set of eyes drilling into me. Some confused, some hostile. Most just blank, like they were trying to figure out who the hell I was. Langston didn't pause. In addition to the controlling interest, he said, Ms. Geller will assume the role of majority stakeholder and acting board chair, with authority to restructure executive leadership in accordance with the revised charter. That landed like a bomb. Someone, I think Brian, had muttered, "What the actual hell?" under his breath. Langston kept going. All prior succession plans are null. All division heads listed in the former structure have been offered transitional stipends or advisory contracts at Mr. Dalton's discretion. You could hear the collective gut punch. These were the people who'd built their whole careers around this moment. This handoff. Paul looked like he'd swallowed a golf ball. Lindsay's face was frozen stiff, like Botox couldn't even hold the rage back. Paul Wexler will retain the honorary title of Creative Emeritus with a quarterly retainer through Q3. Carter Simons will serve as Transitional Marketing Liaison through Q2 under a fixed-fee consulting agreement. Dana Harwell will remain in HR advisory status for 90 days. Langston read it flat. Clinical, like he'd stripped all the emotion out just to keep things from combusting. I stood completely still. I hadn't sat down. Couldn't. My legs felt locked, not from nerves, but from some raw, full-body adrenaline spike. My chest was tight, but my face, stone. I wasn't giving them a damn inch. Someone near the front actually whispered, "Who is she?" Langston lifted the final page. The personal letter. Wax seal cracked open, slow and deliberate. This is Mr. Dalton's statement, written in his own hand and notarized on June 4th, he said. He asked that I read it word for word. He cleared his throat. To those confused or disappointed by this decision, I understand. Many of you expected certain outcomes. Titles, shares, power. I once believed in all of that too. A few people shifted in their seats. Carter was glaring so hard I thought his forehead might split open. But when I had my stroke this past spring, none of you showed up. The silence got louder. You texted, you emailed assistance, you asked for updates from my lawyer. But only one person came in person, again and again, just to see how I was doing. Langston's voice was steady, but the air in the room was heavy enough to choke on. She didn't pitch me projects. She didn't try to get my ear. She brought books, asked if I'd eaten, sat with me when I couldn't speak, watched old commercials with me like they were new, and never once did she ask for a raise, a title, or a seat at the table. I was frozen. Not because I was emotional. I was stunned. Not that he'd remembered, but that he'd meant it. Rachel represents the kind of integrity I used to believe was extinct in this business. She showed up when no one was watching. She worked hard when no one was clapping. That's leadership. And if I'm going to leave behind a company with my name on it, it's not going to be run by people who only showed loyalty when it was convenient. Langston folded the letter in half and looked up. That concludes Mr. Dalton's statement. The room didn't erupt. It cracked. Dana stood up, knocked her chair back. Paul was already whispering to the CFO. Lindsay looked like she might launch herself at the podium. But the rest? Just stunned silence. Nobody knew what to do with it. Me, standing there in a dress from a clearance rack, holding nothing but a clutch and a champagne flute, was now the majority owner of the firm they'd spent their lives politicking through. I didn't move, not because I didn't want to. I wanted to scream, cry, run, maybe even throw up. But I wasn't giving them the satisfaction. Not one of them had asked me how I was doing when I filed for divorce. Not one of them said a word when I went part-time for 2 weeks during my kid's hospital stay. I was invisible when they needed me to be, and now? Now they couldn't see anything but me. Langston stepped down from the stage without another word. He didn't look at me. He didn't need to. I'd just become the most powerful person in the room, and none of them knew what the hell to do with that. I hadn't even fully sat down before Lindsay came storming over in her silver heels, looking like she was about to bite through her lip. "This is insane," she snapped, voice sharp and loud enough to turn heads. "You're not even an executive. You don't manage anyone. How the hell are you holding controlling shares?" I looked at her, dead calm. Apparently, by showing up when it counted, Carter appeared right behind her, face flushed. "No offense, Rachel, but this company is way too complex to be handed off to someone with no leadership experience. You've never even presented at a board meeting." "And yet," I said, folding my hands, "I own the board." He blinked. Dana joined them like she'd been waiting for her cue. "I mean, maybe Dalton wasn't all there when he signed this. He's 84, Rachel. He had a stroke. You said it yourself." "I said he was recovering," I said. "Not that he was confused. Don't twist my words just because you didn't see it coming." They looked at each other, grasping for some kind of shared logic to make this not real. "He barely even knew you," Lindsay said, voice rising. "You probably fed him stories while he was doped up on pain meds. What did you do? Convince him you were his long-lost daughter." "That's enough," a voice cut in. "Langston." He walked up slow, hands clasped behind his back like he was strolling into court. "For anyone who's questioning Mr. Dalton's state of mind during this transition," he said, turning to face them, "I can confirm that multiple legal reviews were conducted. He passed 2 capacity evaluations and signed the documents in the presence of 3 independent witnesses." Dana scoffed. "Those evaluations mean nothing. He probably rehearsed what he had to say and forgot everything 5 minutes later." Langston raised an eyebrow. "Then why did he keep revisiting the terms over the following months?" "He made 3 revisions. All consistent, all reaffirmed by legal counsel. This was not a whim. This was a decision." I stayed silent. They weren't asking questions. They were trying to find an explanation that would let them sleep tonight. "People have worked their whole lives for this company," Carter said. "Real contributors, not just background support." "Then maybe you should have spent less time looking in the mirror and more time looking around," I said. He stepped forward like he wanted to say more, but I stared him down until he didn't. "You really think this is going to last?" Lindsay asked, laughing now, bitter and desperate. "You think you're going to hold on to it once the board sees how green you are?" "I don't think," I said. "I know, because I don't need to be liked by people who didn't even bother to learn my name." They all paused. That hit. "You all had your shot," I said, standing. "And instead of leading, you were too busy selling each other out for proximity to power." Dalton saw it. "I didn't ask for any of this, but I'm not giving it back just to make you comfortable." Langston nodded. "If any of you wish to contest the transfer, you're welcome to contact your legal teams. But I assure you, everything has been airtight." Dana's eyes narrowed. "So that's it? We're just supposed to answer to her now?" "No," I said. "You don't have to do anything. But if you want to stay here, if you want to keep collecting your checks, then yeah, you'll be answering to me." They looked stunned, not just by the shift in hierarchy, but by the fact I wasn't flinching. I let the silence stretch, then turned toward the hallway, ignoring the sting in my chest, the heat in my face. I wasn't rattled, just stunned. "You coming?" I asked Langston without looking back. He followed. Langston and I reached the hallway just outside the ballroom when I heard the noise behind us shift again. Louder now, sharper, not party noise. Panic. By the time we reached the elevator, two VPs were already slipping outside doors with their phones pressed to their ears, probably calling lawyers. Damage control was in full swing, and I hadn't even gotten my coat. Langston hit the button and leaned slightly toward me. "You'll want to schedule something Monday," he said. "Internal only. Keep it tight. Just key stakeholders." I nodded. "You'll help coordinate?" "I'll loop in Dalton's estate counsel. Use your authority while it's fresh." The elevator dinged, but we didn't get in. Someone else stepped out, James from business development. Probably mid-20s, newer hire. He saw me, hesitated, then walked over like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to make eye contact. "Hey," he said, voice low. I just wanted to say congratulations. That was... wow." "Thanks," I said. "I know it's a lot." He gave me a small nod and disappeared down the hall. I could already feel the shift. Not loyalty, just recalibration. Everyone was deciding which way to lean. Back in the ballroom, I saw Carter and Lindsay in a tight huddle near the back bar, whispering with their heads down like quarterbacks in a crisis. Lindsay pulled out her phone, typing fast. Probably checking bylaws, contracts, vesting dates. My own phone buzzed in my clutch. Then again. By the time I pulled it out, I had 7 unread emails, 4 calendar invites, subject lines like, strategy sync, quick one-to-one, opportunity mapping call, twos. No one had talked to me in weeks unless they needed data pulled. Now suddenly, I was getting warm invites to brainstorm partnerships. Langston saw the screen. "Don't respond tonight. Let them sweat." "Good plan," I said, and pocketed the phone. Inside, a few employees I didn't even recognize had started approaching me, cautiously, like I might combust if they said the wrong thing. A junior copywriter from our San Diego office, Kristen or Caitlin or something like that, walked up and smiled nervously. "I just wanted to say, I've read your campaign briefs," she said. "You're really good at what you do." I blinked. "Thanks, that means a lot." She exhaled like she'd just cleared a minefield and stepped back into the crowd. Langston glanced around. "This is going to move fast. You'll need a transition partner." "Someone internal?" He shook his head. "Outside, you need eyes that haven't been poisoned by the culture here." I nodded. I already knew who I'd call. I wasn't going to be anyone's puppet CEO. As I turned back toward the ballroom, I saw Dana sitting stiffly at a table by the dessert bar, staring down at her untouched cake. Paul was gone. So were 2 finance directors. A third had left behind her wine and was pacing the hallway on a Bluetooth call. Langston stepped beside me. "Enjoy your weekend. Come Monday, they'll try to own you. Don't let them." "I won't." 2 days later, I walked into the office and every head in the open floor area lifted like I was carrying a briefcase full of explosives. No welcome back, no small talk, just tension thick enough to cut with a letter opener. I sat at my usual desk. I hadn't moved into a corner office. Not yet. Let them wonder when I'd make that call. First one to stop by was Carter, of course. "Got a minute?" he asked, leaning in like we were old allies. I gave him a nod. He pulled over a chair, spun it backward, and sat like we were in some off-brand TED Talk. "So look," he said, lowering his voice. "There's no doubt you earned Dalton's trust. I respect that." I waited. "And I know this transition is going to be overwhelming. A lot of politics, a lot of landmines. But I've been managing cross-functional teams for a while. If we create a resource-sharing structure, you stay lead on vision, I handle day-to-day, it could make things smoother." I stared at him. "You're offering to be my handler?" No, not like that," he said quickly. "Think of it like co-piloting. You keep your role, your name on the masthead. I just help translate the ops side." "You mean the side I've been running reports on for years?" He blinked, caught. "Right. I mean, you've got context. I've just got volume." "I'm good on volume." Carter gave me a forced smile, stood, and said, "Well, door's open if you want to talk." I didn't respond. By lunch, Dana came knocking. She acted casual, but her eyes told the truth. This wasn't social. "I wanted to chat before things get locked down," she said, closing my door behind her. "Okay." She perched on the corner of my desk like she belonged there. "I know this can't be easy. You're under a microscope. Everyone's watching, wondering what your next move is." I'm aware. Dana sighed. This company, it runs on relationships, Rachel. People trust people they've been through fire with, and like it or not, a shift like this, it shakes people. That's the point. She smiled, thin and polished. All I'm saying is, think about the team. You could build goodwill if you shared some decision-making power. It doesn't have to be a full surrender, just strategic partnership. With who? You, Carter? With the people who've kept this place afloat. I leaned back in my chair. Those same people spent years not noticing I existed. That's not fair. No, it's not, but it's accurate. She stood slowly. You're not the only one with something to prove. No, I said. Just the only one with nothing left to lose. Dana left without another word. I didn't respond to any more hallway drop-ins. Didn't take calendar requests. Instead, I picked up the phone and called a firm I'd been vetting since Sunday. Corporate transition specialists, ironclad contract architects, bulletproof voting trust designers. We met on Zoom that night. I gave them full authority to structure the company shares through a reinforced trust, locking out any board overrides or backdoor grabs. By morning, my ownership was protected. Let them whisper. Let them sulk in offices they no longer controlled. They'd had years to act like leaders. I'd waited my turn. I wasn't waiting anymore. I walked into the conference room that morning, and every seat was full, just like I expected. What I didn't expect was the silence. No paper rustling, no side convos, just a room full of former gatekeepers waiting to see if I'd crash the plane or start building my own runway. Thanks for showing up, I said, setting my laptop down. This'll be quick. The slide behind me lit up with one sentence. Rachel Geller, majority owner and acting chair. I didn't wait for applause. There wasn't any. This isn't temporary, I said. This isn't symbolic. I'm not here to smile for press releases while someone else runs things behind the scenes. I own controlling shares, and I will be leading this company. Carter shifted in his seat. Dana crossed her arms. Paul didn't even look up from his notepad. I gave it 5 seconds, then moved on. Here's what's changing. We're flattening the hierarchy. No more 17-person sign-off chains for a 3-week ad campaign. If you've built something, you'll present it. If you've led something, you'll own the credit. I clicked to the next slide. There's also going to be a new profit-sharing structure. Mid-level and junior staff will start receiving quarterly bonuses tied to project performance, not just executive performance. That model kicks off next quarter. Someone in the back, I couldn't see who, whispered, "She's serious?" I didn't respond. Let them get used to it on their own time. We're also launching a mentorship track. Analysts, coordinators, interns. If you're overlooked, underpaid, or boxed in, you'll get the backing to develop your leadership track. Real support. Not vague, keep up the good work bullshit. Dana raised a hand, fake polite. And who exactly will be mentoring these overlooked staff? The people who have time now that they're not hoarding power, I said. Or people I'll bring in from the outside if necessary. She dropped her hand. I clicked off the slides. Some of you are waiting for this to blow over, or for the board to walk it back. That's not happening. So if you're staying, stay. If you're not, resign and we'll get you an exit package. The room didn't move, but the tension broke a little. The message landed. Over the next 2 weeks, 3 execs quit. 1 department head requested early retirement. I didn't fight it. They weren't who I was building this company for. What surprised me were the quiet ones. People like Nicole in data analytics or Aaron from client ops, suddenly asking if they could pitch new workflows or test a new lead gen model. People I barely knew started stopping by my office to ask real questions. Smart ones. Questions that showed they'd been paying attention long before anyone paid attention to them. This wasn't about revenge. I wasn't here to torch the place. I just finally had the keys, and I wasn't handing them back so someone else could slam the same damn doors in everyone's faces again. I stepped into Langston's office at exactly 9 a.m. No entourage, no coffee in hand, just the pen I brought from home. He slid the final stack of documents across the table. "Everything's in here," he said. "Shareholder filings, ownership certifications, board structuring. This signs it all into reality." I flipped to the signature lines without blinking. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't excited either. Just ready. I'd already bled for this company. Now it had my name on it. I signed one page after another. Langston didn't talk. He didn't have to. He'd done this before, but never for someone like me. When we finished, he leaned back. "You did what most of them never thought possible." I didn't do it for them. No, he said, but they're watching. I left the folder on his desk and headed out. My next stop was quiet, outside city limits, tucked behind a chain pharmacy and a strip mall. Dalton's assisted living facility was calm, like time had stopped inside. His nurse greeted me at the front desk. He's awake, but not responsive today. I'm not here for conversation, I said. She nodded and led me down the hall. His room smelled like antiseptic and lavender. He looked smaller than I remembered, his body sunken into a recliner by the window. No TV on, no noise, just sunlight and machines. I sat next to him and took his hand. It was cold, dry, light as paper. Thank you, I said, for trusting me. He didn't move, didn't blink, but I stayed there for 10 minutes, holding his hand like I had nothing else to do. Because that's what I did back then, and that's why I'm here now. Back at the office, the change was slow, but it was real. Weekly updates now included shoutouts from interns, junior staff, project leads who'd never spoken in all company meetings before. Someone from fulfillment suggested a vendor switch that ended up saving $30,000. We greenlit it without a second round of approval. Carter still came to every meeting, never late, never loud, but always watching. Like he was waiting for cracks to show. Dana kept her office door open now, smiling a little more than she used to. But the way she paused before asking questions told me she was still looking for a soft spot. I didn't give them one. Late one Thursday, after a long finance call, I opened my laptop and saw a new email from a name I barely recognized. Lauren, the intern I'd coached on a fall campaign. Subject, just thanks. I know you're probably flooded with emails, but I wanted to say I've never seen someone actually stand their ground like you did. You didn't just take control. You made space for the rest of us. That means something. I hope you know that. I sat there for a second, then typed 2 words, "You're next," and I meant it. It was snowing lightly by the time I parked near the diner. My boots crunched on the salted sidewalk, and the air was cold enough to bite. Through the window, I spotted my daughter already in a booth, sipping hot chocolate and scrolling her phone. She looked up and smiled as I walked in. "You're late." 5 minutes, I said, sliding into the seat across from her. "You hungry?" "Starving. I've been living on ramen and Spite all week," I smiled. Same dry sarcasm I raised her on. The waitress dropped off menus, but I didn't open mine. "I need to tell you something," I said. She looked up. "This about the company?" "Yeah, it's been a lot, but it's real. I'm running it now. I own controlling shares. I've already locked them down." She raised an eyebrow. "And you're just going to keep all of it?" There it was, director. No judgment, just curiosity. "Some people are angry," she said. "Like, really angry. Are you giving any of it back? Or sharing?" I shook my head. "Not like that." "So you're keeping it?" I took a sip of my coffee, then leaned in. "I'm investing it. I'm setting up a grant program, mentorships, training, portfolio funding for single parents, marketing and design students, people who've been counted out or overlooked." Her eyes widened. "Seriously?" "I wish something like that existed when I started out," I said. "And Dalton wanted this company to mean something, so I'm going to make it count." She smiled slowly, then nodded. "Okay, that's actually pretty badass." We split a burger and fries and argued over the best holiday movie. She still insists it's Home Alone 2, which is objectively wrong. After dinner, we bundled up and stepped outside. The snow was heavier now, coating the sidewalk in a thin layer of white. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. "Carter, let's chat Monday. Just 10 minutes?" I didn't even open it. I hit delete and shoved the phone back in my coat. My daughter looked over. "Work?" "Not important." We walked down the street in silence, past shuttered shops and glowing street lamps. The cold hit my face hard, but I didn't care. For once, I wasn't pushing for a seat. I wasn't begging to be noticed. I had it, I was it. And I'd lead it my way, or not at all.